Welcome back to the Unwind podcast. I'm your host, Lucas. I run a couple of agencies, one being a creative agency and another being a TikTok first agency. I also recently started an Econ brand, so very much still on my journey to finding success as an entrepreneur. Now, this podcast is all about meeting with like-minded entrepreneurs and professionals to go deep, have a little bit of fun as well over a drink or two out of office hours. Most business podcasts struggle to do that and are a bit formal and professional and interview like, and we definitely want to break that and go deeper, have a bit of fun, as well as offer tons of value. So you can find us on Spotify or YouTube at Unwind Podcast. Now let's get into the pod. Now, this next episode of Unwind is with Connor Martin, who without a doubt is probably the most successful person I've ever met. He runs an 8-figure econ brand, as well as 3 other econ brands and a 3PL. It's a mental story. We have quite a few bottles of wine and it gets a little bit loose, so you're definitely going to want to watch the whole thing. But yeah, let's get into the pod. Well, Connor, cheers.
Chin chin.
Chin chin. Welcome back to another episode of Unwind. I'm met by Connor Martin, who CEO, director of, well, multitude of brands, as well as a 3PL. So, Connor, thank you for coming today.
No, thanks for having me.
Connor is probably someone actually that I've been speaking to more than my girlfriend recently.
Fuck, that's sadly true.
Yeah, you live with your wife. You probably say the same. We work very closely together across both For You Advertising, which is obviously the TikTok first agency, and Hammy Media. We do a lot of social media management, as well as we've been doing some branding stuff. And you're actually here this week for a big production shoot that we're doing with you for one of your brands. But yeah, I guess firstly, I'd like to just get into a little bit of context as to your story. We'll go quite deep into that, but second half we'll just go deep into this certain topics that I'd like to discuss that I think we can have some good conversations about. But
absolutely.
So yeah. Oh, fucking hell. But yeah, let's get straight into it.
So right from the start, yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So whole journey I actually started pretty young, just the same old, trying to sell sweets, that sort of thing. The cliche. Played a lot of football, then went to university in Liverpool. My first venture, I don't actually know if it's legal or not anymore, was the wee Cody boxes.
You had me at, I don't know if it's legal anymore.
Yeah, I'm a hard drug salesman.
I don't know if it's legal anymore. Marijuana sales.
I don't know if it's legal yet. No, it was the Cody boxes. Did you have Mob Drill?
Yeah.
So I used to put them on and sold them around Liverpool. Some scary times, because sometimes they just wouldn't work. And
what were you in Liverpool?
University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, university with my ex-girlfriend at the time. And I'd done criminal justice, which is pretty ironic, selling Cody boxes. For it, never really liked university, to be honest. Went over, it was more of a learning curve going away. Don't know if you know, but back home, there's only one university, Queen's University. Well, there's two, Queen's and Georgetown.
Where is home, just for...
Yeah, Northern Ireland. And that's more of a... the sort of university living over there is very, very one-dimensional. Very, you don't get any sleep. It's all partying all the time. So
I would have thought that's what Liverpool would be like. I know it's supposed to have... I've never actually been to the city, but I've heard the nightlife is pretty...
The nightlife's brilliant, but it's sort of that big. It's all segmented.
Right.
Whereas in Belfast, it would have been the parties were in the houses and it was all one street. So there was no real getting away from it.
Ancestral.
And that was never really me. I didn't really like that sort of thing. So went to Liverpool, done criminal justice. I don't think I'd done a full week of uni the whole way through. Was addicted to Football Manager.
Weren't we all?
Yeah. It sort of just spiraled from there, and then literally for year 1, year 2, just stayed low, worked in Domino's Pizza, done 60 hours a week in there, and that was probably where I really learned what hard work was. Not so much hard work, what work I didn't want to do, didn't want to have to do. I was getting like fucking $5.50 an hour, and it was soul destroying work. Like I've got like scars on my arm,
Fucking hell.
because I was the one that like took the pizza out of the oven and like cut it up. But that oven's like fucking 200 degrees, like it's roasting.
I had a mate who at uni did the same thing. He was at Domino's, but I think he was a delivery driver, so he would always like take a couple of chicken wings out of the bags and shit just when he was going to the houses.
Funny that I was a delivery driver first, and I actually crashed twice. So yeah, that sort of put the end of it. But yeah, just literally I done that first and second year. And funny story, actually, it's such a different environment over there, and them sort of fast food takeaways. I worked in Liverpool where generally 95% of the employees in Domino's were all from foreign descent, and it was for me, I was the only one where English was my first language, and I would have went 12-hour shifts and not spoke a word.
Fucking hell.
I hated it. The area manager came in and he said something to me. It was like, faster, clicked his fingers at me. And I literally just thought there, I goes, what an arsehole. And I just dropped it and just walked out. Walked out and never went back.
That's the dream, isn't it?
Literally, it wasn't a dream when you're £1,000 overdraft.
Yeah, true. But I feel like that's like the cliche, but that's like that's kind of what you hear in the films about how that the entrepreneur businessman started his journey.
Yeah. Done that, and do you know what? It was such a breath of fresh air, and then it was just a whole like realization. It was like, oh shit, I've got no income at uni, and I need to find something quick. Applied for everything I could, and then eventually got a job at EE, the phone shop EE, as a salesperson. I absolutely loved it in there. Went from 25-hour temp all the way up to senior sales within 6-7 months. And then it was the January in my third year. As my store manager at the time was like, look, I really wanted to do full time. I was like, I can't, I'm at uni, blah, blah. And it was like £12 an hour. And I was like, fuck it, I'll just do it. So went full time and binned uni off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just never went to any classes and just done my coursework.
So you hadn't dropped out by this point?
No, I didn't drop out. I never dropped out. I just didn't go to any courses, or didn't go to any classes. And eventually I managed to, I submitted like 500 words of a dissertation and managed to still overall get a pass in my whole uni course, which was nuts.
Fair.
And yeah, I just went on. Then when I went home, we went home just after I finished uni, me and my now wife, Penny. We were that skint. I had to go back home and live with my family.
Did you meet at uni then, the two of you?
Yeah. Broke up with my girlfriend on the Monday and then got with Penny on the Friday.
Well, at least you're fucking married now. So. clearly was real.
Yeah, but we were that skint that we had to move home. But lucky enough, I was progressing in the sort of job I was in. Got up to assistant manager. A few months later, I got up to store manager, and loved it. And then around this sort of time, I was always wanting to be the best. EE had just opened stores inside Argos's, so that was like the new sort of vibe. It was cheaper rent and stuff, but I took that was the lowest performing Argos store, and I took it to the top 3 within like 3 or 4 months.
And they gave you like training and things.
So I learned the sort of upsells. Like upsells was our thing. We got paid extra in upsells. It was all about numbers, and then as the business progressed, it was then all about profit and stuff like that. So that's where my sort of, not so much my understanding of it, but more my importance of that sort of came in.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. Like it's almost like you said, like the business foundations and fundamentals you learn in those stages. Like, I think I was in a sales role before I started my agency, and in hindsight, without that sales experience and sales training, I genuinely don't think I'd be half the business person I am now. I think it's so important to have, just general salesperson skills.
Yeah, definitely. I think my sort of sales and business acumen. Acumen's a bit of a shit word. But half of it came from sort of my own experiences, and I felt like I did have a lot, because it was sort of unheard of that I think it was 21 at a time, was a store manager. That wasn't a thing. So I was doing well there, but at the same time, my dad's always had his own business and has always been very successful. So I sort of learned via him as well. So it was almost like I had 20 years experience in business because I just soaked up everything that he had, and not so much just like the stuff that he would have told you. Because to be honest, he probably wasn't the best at telling you stuff. Yeah. But just his experiences and the way he handled them, and the way he handled home life as well, because my mum had multiple sclerosis. Like literally could only blink her eyes. Like that's for my, since I was 8, that was the case. So like he was working like 60 hours a week and then coming home, and that was another job.
Yeah,
was looking after my mum.
So did you? Fuck, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point on your dad owning a business, and because I think that can go down two roads.
Yes,
someone
absolutely.
that's successful, it's like either you become entitled as fuck, or you're parented in a way that you're still, the correct morals are instilled into you, that you actually have to work hard to make your own way. Because funny you say that. Similarly, my dad has his own business. It's very different kind of business, more of a lifestyle business. Like he's not interested in he's had a team of 4 like for the last 20 years, never put a penny into advertising, and he just has loyal client base that.
But do you think that's where you maybe learned advertising? Because I've thought this as well, because one of my frustrations was I always wanted to make it bigger, and I always wanted to make it not better, because I don't think I could have, but
yeah, it's true.
Because you look at him and you're like, you could have so many clients because you do such a good job.
It's so interesting you say that, actually. It's because I remember always saying to him when I was younger, I was like, have you ever put money into advertising? And he was like, not a penny. And I was like,
but
you can fucking scale this.
Yeah.
But it's obviously, I think that's what is exciting, because he's very successful, but he's built a business where he's happy, he's content, and probably it's a lot more pressure free, because you don't have the pressures of having a massive team, cash flow problems, looking at where you're going to keep kind of growing and building on new clients. It's basically the only thing you got to worry about is retention.
Yeah.
And you're the same for employees. You don't really have to
worry about that, because if you're doing a good job, that sort of takes care of itself. That's
interesting though. Was your dad, was it a similar kind of thing? Or?
So not really actually. So his first business was in partnership with his brother. They done Safety Heights, so it was a safety net company.
Right.
So say for example, this building was being made, and it was so high off the ground, he put safety nets up along here for them to put the roof on.
That's funny.
So it was a really, really a really good niche at the time. And he did scale to them, and he had I think they had about 15 employees at the time. And then the 2008 recession hit, but because he ran it so nicely,
lean.
shall we speak, lean, they survived the recession, which 90% of construction companies didn't do.
Yeah, right.
They didn't. So I'd sort of learned
were you exposed to that and how he dealt with it?
So looking back, I was obviously exposed to it, but at the time, the way he handled it was very himself. So it was only maybe 2-3 years ago where he would have said, actually between them periods I was in the red.
Yeah.
And I was doing, when we didn't have much money. And we were in the red. And it's hard, because then you sort of try to patch things together. You try to patch, how did it feel back then, or what sort of life did I get? And it was still a top notch. My childhood was amazing.
Yeah.
There's nothing there that if I wanted something, I got it. He always tells people, "Oh, you got £5,000 worth of football boots." I just spun football boots apparently.
So just touching on that then, because a lot of people listening will have their own businesses, and I always hear business owners saying, "Oh, when I have my first fucking kid, I don't want him to be an entitled little shit. I'm gonna make him work for his own money." And it's like the Bill Gates thing. I swear he's only given each of his kids. Obviously, he's a billionaire. He's given each of his kid like under $1 million each or something like that, just to set them up. I mean, it's still fucking crazy, but you know, what are your thoughts on that? Because obviously it's unlikely that it's less common, even situations like that, where, you know, you're very openly saying that you were given everything you wanted, and you still were as driven and hardworking as you are to build a fucking, you know, insane career for yourself.
It's a hard one. Sort of looking back, my mum being sick at the same time sort of played a big part in that, because Dad had split his time between working and looking after Mum. I don't know, maybe some part of me was like, I don't want to depend on anyone, or I don't know, actually that's wrong. I always wanted to be able to do that for someone else. If I was able to, you know, Dad had to work and also had to look after Mum. If I was able to say, like, you know, this the cliche thing, if I was able to retire them.
Yeah.
And I think,
well, it's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah. And that was always, I think, the thing is, like, I want to be the one that can do A, B, and C. I don't want to have to depend on anyone. I don't want to have to worry about anything. Or more so, I want to be the one worrying about it. And I think that plays a lot into things. Like, it was, at the time, I regretted it at a stage, because when my mum was at her worst, that's when I went to Liverpool for uni. So at the time, I kind of felt like I was running away from issues.
Right. Yeah.
But that's where my sort of biggest learning curve was, because I had to stand on my own 2 feet very young, which was hard. So I had to get, you know, I had to work all the hours I could. I had to, you know, get another job. Once I left that, I had to look for another job. But it all sort of stemmed from, you know, business was always in his head. So I sort of do devote everything sort of to him because of that.
Yeah.
Because of how he, more so, I think it was because it's how you interact with things. It's how you sort of soak things up. So I soaked up differently that, Daddy's always rich, so I can then do what I want. It was never that case. Like, it was never. Like, he was always shrewd with his money.
For me, like, it was because my dad literally said to me, like, do you want, when you leave uni, do you want to take over the business?
Yeah.
And you can scale it up. And like, I instantly like made the decision straight away that I didn't want to do that. And it sounds very similar to what you're saying, because I didn't want to be, I guess it could be even an ego thing. The idea of like, people be looking at me like he only fucking made it because of his dad.
Yeah.
I wanted to like write my own path and walk my own path. I didn't want anyone having any excuse of saying he fucking made it because it's daddy's company.
Yeah, that's probably a big thing as well.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because so my dad had that safety net business, then he left that to have an indoor sports arena. So it was an indoor, you know, the artificial grass.
Yeah, right.
So he left to do that. That went really, really well, and he closed over COVID. Not so much because of COVID, just to slow down. He was doing like fucking like 6-7 hours between like 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. Sort of thing. So we didn't want to do it. And I was so reluctant. So that's where our base is now, is in that building.
Oh shit, fair.
And
Full
I
circle.
was so reluctant to use that building, for the simple fact that for people to say, "Oh, that's his daddy's business," and some people still do. And to be fair, that's something that I'm really happy about. He's the first one to shut it down. He's the first one to say, "No. He's done this all on his own."
Well, it's fucking true, isn't it? Like, people that say that, genuinely, people that say that, and we're kind of going on a massive tangent here. We'll get on track, back on track of the story, but. People that say those things, like, genuinely, like, you've just got to have empathy for them. And I didn't even think of it like this, but I read Gary Vee's most recent book, 12 and a half, I think it was. And like, he spoke about it in that. He's like, if people fucking literally shit on you, whether it be online, in person, like envy, you've got to look at them and be empathetic, no matter how much of a cunt they're being to you. Because realistically, if you're stooping that low to try and bring someone else down, you're clearly in a very bad position yourself.
Yeah. Especially, you know, London's a big place. Northern Ireland's very, like, see where we're at, like, everyone knows everyone. And it can be very it is very backward sometimes. But no credit. You know, credit to him. He'd be the first one to say no. You he built this on his own. And don't get me wrong, he was there every step of the way. You know, he was there to sort of support me when I eventually did jump ship. So I left EE, where when the Essence Vault was just sort of taking over, was just sort of doing my monthly sort of intake, monthly cash flow sort of thing. But I shit myself. I didn't have the balls to do it. I went to work in Yell.com. Found out very, very quickly that I can't cold call.
It's a fucking different beast, isn't it? It is. When there's people not walking into your shop and you're like, you're walking into theirs, technically speaking.
But that you know, I learned a lot there as well. I was only there 3 months, but I learned so much. I learned about culture, like the culture in there. Like, they don't call it cold calling. It's fucking cold calling, and it's the worst kind of cold calling. Like, you're calling someone, honestly, you're told to call someone like Avon sellers. You're told to call them 20 times a day. Like, they're not going to be worth anything.
Proper hot sell.
So it is, but the culture there made it look like that was normal. Which is obviously a good thing or a bad thing.
I think cold calling is important for anyone to do, like starting a business. Like, for me, cold calling, as much as what it teaches you is that rejection is okay, and it makes you have harder skin. Yeah, for sure.
And that's sort of what I learned from it. But I also learned at the time that your product had to be fucking really good. Yeah, because their products really weren't really that good. And that's sort of where I learned. I was like, right, okay, so I need to make my product the best out of all of our competitors, and really knock down on that. So I can confidently say, I can confidently make these accusations in marketing. Yeah, we're the best. Like, we are the best. We're definitely the best inspired fragrance company on Trustpilot. I'd arguably say that we're the best fragrance company online on Trustpilot.
Facts.
All of them competitors, we are in terms of volume of reviews.
We'll get on to that.
Yeah. So that's obviously, I can confidently advertise because I know that the product is, if it's not perfect, it's good.
Yeah.
Simple.
It's one thing I've learned as well. Like, we used to fucking, as I guess that you do with anything, take on anyone and their mother as a client, but now we're like way more picky about who we want to work with, because learned that we worked with a few startups that had no track record or proof of concept in the market, and then when the marketing campaign fails, you're held accountable, even though the product is wank.
It's
true though, isn't it? And that's why, like, without a client that's not doing a certain amount of, you know, revenue a month or have a proven track record, like, there's just no point working with them, because you're going to be held accountable.
I definitely. And so that's literally 3 months in. I pulled the manager, and I just went, look, my mum was very, very sick at that time, and I just said, I was like, look, I want to take a few months off, and I came back straight away. I was like, look, I don't want to work here anymore. I want to do my own thing because mum's not well. I want to dictate what I want to do. And he literally said, he was like, look, turn your laptop or turn your computer off, take your belongings and just walk out. And I was like, right. So I did, and they paid me for another 2 full months.
Fair play.
After that. So that sort of gave me the money to push the Essence Vault. And definitely, you know, it let me scale. Because of what I mentioned before the call, like, that was the first sort of jump. That was the first jump. So, like, the whole way along, where I was making enough, and then I left my job and I just went.
Yeah, right. So you, like, the Essence Vault, obviously we'll get onto that in a sec. For context, is a fragrance company that obviously was Connor's first brand. Was that idea brewing during this period, like,
yes,
or was it after you left there?
No, so I always I done it for like a year, 9 months, a year at like face-to-face markets.
Right.
And thinking back, I didn't really know what Shopify. I didn't know what Shopify was. I didn't think any brand could be an online brand. I thought it was just the big guys and you needed all this capital. So we just done face-to-face, and thinking back on it, that was like the product concept sort of thing. If I show you the labels and stuff back then, like, it wouldn't.
Don't show Molly.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Molly and Connor have a love-hate relationship. Yeah. Connor's scared of Molly, basically.
Yeah. She destroys every bit of fucking branding I have. But yeah, they were awful. Like, no, it was terrible.
But that's the same with everything, though. Like, you look back at your first whatever, and
yeah, if it's perfect,
like,
you've launched too late.
Yeah.
100%. And use them for proof of concept. Even back then, perfumes were like our third product. We sold wax melts and stuff.
Okay, right, yeah.
So, and it was there customers coming in, and they were all buying the perfume, and I was like, "Oh, we've got these wax melts here. Don't try them." Like, no, I'll just buy the perfume.
So that was like your hero product at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you say that was like at a market stall, like
that
in
was
person?
yeah.
Oh
yeah.
shit, interesting. So like ecom just wasn't even
Honestly, it was. I didn't know what ecom was. I didn't know.
Fuck.
What anything was. I heard of drop shipping, but I thought drop shipping was all a scam. I literally thought the definition of drop shipping was run a business, tell people that it was going to come in 4 weeks, and then you've got 4 weeks to scam all those people.
Right.
Like, honestly, that's what I thought that was.
It's like the three. Well, there was like a couple of key buzzwords of like making money. It was like drop shipping, social media marketing was a big one, and like Amazon FBA.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
But and that was sort of what it was. But I thought there was one of them ones that was like, oh, let's get rich quick, and then you're always told don't listen to get rich quick. So I just like completely ignored it. But as soon as I left Yale, literally after that first sort of downward spiral, it sort of started to mellow off. It was doing okay. It was just literally what I still remember what I needed to be sustainable. I needed £144 in sales per day, and that would have made me cost effective, and that would have made me stay in the green.
What was your profit margins looking like?
They were healthy enough. They were definitely healthy enough. They were healthier back then than they were today, obviously.
And was it expensive, like for these market stalls?
£40 a day.
Okay,
and we were maybe doing.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, we were maybe doing some days. Right, so literally. So I went to first market stall we done.
It feels so old school.
Yeah. First,
so funny.
I was literally in like an old church. First market stall we done £250, and I've never been happier. Then the second one, it was £50 to get in. We had to be there for 3 a.m. and I done £4 in sales. And I literally went from this is amazing to this is never ever gonna work ever.
That flash moment is basically like a representation of what business is.
Yeah, honestly.
It's like you can have a day like that and then you can fucking have a shit day.
And that it was mental because I was literally thinking, right, I've spent £4,000 doing this. It's clearly not going to work. I've just made fucking I was literally within one market I switched to all perfumes. I'd be done wax melts on the side then, and I literally went from thinking, oh, okay, we're gonna do well. And the questions I was asked was, I was literally asked, was there cat piss in these bottles? Is this why it's so cheap? Yeah, it was horrible. Like some of the comments, because think about it, like you're getting the Facebook comments, but you're getting it face to face from people that are literally looking at your brand and going, that smells like shit, putting it down and just walking away. And it's literally getting like a fucking dagger to the chest, time and like again. And then I think honestly, I was at some wee old granny bought 2 wax melts and we were selling them for £4. They weren't even that didn't even make money. I don't know why we were giving them away. I think I was like, please buy something, please.
So when did you pivot then to ecom? Like when did that become a thing where you moved online?
So we made a Shopify website. First Shopify website was drastic. It was really bad. And I had it then for so that happened and then it was like maybe 2 or 3 months. This is going back up to when I left Yale. We had just before I left EE. That's when I started going heavy into ecom. Not heavy into ecom. I had an ecom store, Shopify store, and this is when the sort of the way you mentioned dropshipping was the big thing.
Yeah.
Now influencer marketing was the big thing.
Right.
It was sort of not even the big thing. It was sparkling up. It was coming. Like I was following people and they were showing like teeth whitening stuff and they were showing.
Yeah, teeth whitening is the big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you saw McGregor on I Smile or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
That was
So these were all. This is what was happening, and then I thought, fuck it. Do you know what? I'm gonna send someone some product. sent this girl Charlotte free product, messaged her, and she was like, oh, she was so lovely. She was like, yeah, of course. You know, yeah, I would love some perfume. Sent her it and forgot about it. Our shipping was that slow back then. I think she got it like 5 days later. She posted it without telling me. And it was literally, I wish it still worked. It was literally a video of her opening the box and, oh, I love this. That was it. Like that was influencer video back then. And honestly,
it became fucking noisy.
So I shipped that. It was on like a Friday night, lying in bed, and all I heard was ding, the Shopify cash, and I was like, what? And I was like, oh my god, Penny, I've got a sale. Put it down, ding. I was like, oh my god, I've got another sale.
So were they your first ecom sales then?
So I had one or two, but they were more from people from the markets.
Right.
They'd be like, oh yeah, this is our website. We've got a website now. They bought it online. This was the first sales that were completely, like, I didn't do a market for like 2 weeks before that, and I had a sale.
That dopamine hit of the Shopify sale.
Fucking hell. That was better than anything.
You know you're really making it when you turn that off.
That was probably the happiest moment, because like then I put it phone down again and I was like, Penny, fucking 2 sales. I'm lit. I'm fucking rich. 2 sales of a tenner, by the way. And then da-ding, we got 250 pounds worth within an hour just from her posting that. And I think I set up. I didn't think I slept that night. I was like straight on YouTube, how to make your Shopify better. And then I went from I sent her one the week before, and eventually it landed, and then the next day 10, 12, 15 influencer. Just influencer. I was just reaching out to everyone.
And that's, to be fair, like, I know obviously we're running your socials now for another brand, not the Essence Vault. That's one thing my team say. Like, your team are fucking on it with like reaching out to people. Like, even now, like, it's So we're sort of finding it's dying off, but it's still worth it. But we have 2 influence. Well, we've got one just left to be a solicitor. But we've got one influencer outreach whose full-time job is just... Oh, really? Yeah. Fair. And that's across all the brands?
That's across all the brands. So probably we'll hire that for another one of that soon, just to keep doing it. Because it's just so... I think it's a value point as well from me thinking, okay, that's how we started, so we're always going to do that. That's something we're always going to do.
Well, that's it. Like that, it probably sits with you like so deep, that first story and, you know, that proof of concept.
Yeah, I actually... It's funny because I remember her name was Charlotte, and every couple of months I'll try and find her, and I can never find her. She was a Mrs. Hinch wannabe, but she was like, she had like 4,000 followers, like
fucking hell.
But this was when there was no such thing as micro influencers. It was just all big ones. But I just couldn't afford to pay anyone, so I had to go for them ones. And that's sort of, we always went for micro then, and I think we sort of lost that because then we started reaching out to the Love Island people, and we were paying them like thousands. Like we paid one of the big Love Island ones, and it was 3,000. We didn't get one sale.
Fuck, that's the thing. Like, I think you see those Love Island people now, and I mean, to be fair, there's like a couple of them that are quite smart and business savvy. Molly May seems to be killing it. Like, there's a few of them, max maybe, that are doing well off the back of it. But honestly, some of them, you just see them come off and it's just fucking brand deal after brand deal on the story. And it's just, people become so accustomed to it. Like when they're doing several of them a week, it's just fucking, it just loses all credibility.
Yeah. So this one, I can't mention it because we've actually had a bit of a falling out, well, massive falling out. So we paid her, honestly, I think it was like 7,000. We paid her, and it was
Name
for
drop.
it was post 3 stories, and then a post the week later as well. She's done the post, she's done the 3 stories, she's done the second post, and then literally a week later she deleted both the posts. And we're like, fuck, you can't do that.
Was she contracted then?
Yes, yeah. Contracted from their end, and it specifically said posts with no expiration date. So we were like, it's on your contract. She took them down, so we're still in a bit of a squabble, and that was 6 months ago. That was for Zena. That was for Zena.
Fuck. Well, off air, I'm probably going to ask you who that was.
Definitely.
So, at what point then? Fast forward a bit. The Essence Vault. So obviously, that's the first kind of that's the first moment where you really tasted not success, but that feeling of this could work.
Yeah.
When go to the next chapter then, when was the moment where you really realized this could be something big?
To be honest, I'm not just saying this because it's a fucking on thing, but I would still not say that the Essence Vault's a massive brand. And I know you disagree, and
I love it though, like that desire to always want more.
Yeah.
But that can be toxic.
It can be toxic as well. It can be toxic. The whole 80-20 thing, don't diversify, put your focus on this, blah blah. But
I want to get onto that later. I've got some questions.
Yeah. I think I've pinpointed the point where talk about imposter syndrome, all that shit, but I think it's generally just the ecom environment because there's nothing to hold on to in ecom, and it's all online. You're not a fucking retail giant with 200 stores. You're like we do more revenue per day than EE does in Northern Ireland.
That's fucking mental.
So to put it into perspective, it's pretty. We're pretty big, or EE didn't do that much.
Yeah, well, you're an 8-figure brand, realistically.
Yeah, we are now.
Which is fucking crazy at the age of 26, and to be an 8-figure brand and still be saying that you don't see yourself as a big brand now.
It definitely can't be toxic, 100%.
It's got positives and negatives. I was actually talking to my missus about this last week when we were in Croatia. And she was saying like, oh, I'm such a perfectionist, and I'm like, well, there's positives to that. And she bit my head off, to be fair, and she was like, I get what you're saying, but it can be really detrimental to always want more and want to be better and not actually accept what you've done is actually positive. So I think I agree with that, and I think it's important to have that in entrepreneurship, that like you always want more, but I think you also need to stop and there's like levels of gratitude that you've got to have for how far you've actually come. And people say it to me, like people sit down to me and say, have you ever thought about like what you're doing here and what you've built? And I'm like, to be honest, no, because with business, like any moment, like things can fucking change. So I never want to become like too comfortable.
Yeah, 100%. Like you've done fucking extremely well. Like look at this place. Like it's in central London. It's insane. But I don't know. I think it must obviously be the same mindset as yourself. You just once you have something, it's not about double. Okay, obviously you want to double it, but it's more. You don't want to ever. You don't want to go, okay, you're sure you're here. You want to be here, but you never want to be here.
Yeah, exactly.
And people have said it before, but it's like, oh, but then you're holding back from going to here. It's like, well, I don't give a fuck really about that. I just don't want to be back where I'm worrying about, worrying about if I've got enough money to pay my fucking car insurance for the next month. I've never got to worry about, can we go on holidays? I never ever want to say I haven't got enough holidays left this year. Go on holidays, fuck off.
Did you? And I spoke about this with Jordan and Joe when they were on the podcast. But like this idea of like gold medal syndrome, like when you reach a pinnacle, well, not a pinnacle, but you reach a point where you've always wanted to get to, like a big goal, and you get there, and it's the most like empty feeling, and it's like I want the next goal. Yeah. Like when I got to that 7-figure run rate, and it was like this massive goal for me, and I was like,
nothing changes.
What the fuck? Like this is the most empty feeling ever.
Funny. You almost expect people to come up to you in the street and go, oh,
yeah, exactly. I've heard that's what like exiting a company's like as well. Like you expect like the fucking horns and trumpets to come out and like.
It's funny you say that. I went to see that Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. Live thing.
I remember you saying that.
He went over the top with it. He said it was the most depressing day of his life, getting like 100 million for his brand, or 12 million for his brand off. I'm telling you, I'd be happy for a few weeks at least.
Theatre.
Yeah, but we had our first big day, which was on Black Friday, 2 Black Fridays ago. That was our biggest day.
Was that during COVID?
No, so I don't know what was during COVID and what wasn't. I would say it was, yeah.
Blends into one, doesn't it?
That was when that November we just went back into lockdown when we were told we weren't ever going to go back into lockdown, and then we just did because we were told if we go to lockdown now, we'll be out of lockdown for Christmas. That's what it was.
That was fucked. That January one.
Yeah,
we all thought we were out of it.
Yeah,
and then,
but we had our best ever day, obviously on Black Friday, and that goal there, I was over the moon for, and it was weird because I was so over the moon. I was like, oh my god, that was the goal, and I done it massively. Then fast forward to the next Black Friday, we doubled that goal, and that's when it was like it was funny because the first one it was like 11:30 at night, and I was like refreshing. I was like, oh my god, we're gonna make it. We did, and I was ecstatic. I was so happy, and I was so happy going forward. But then fast forward to the next Black Friday, we doubled it, and I literally didn't even know until the Monday.
It's so funny that you say that, and I know this is like a weird kind of way to contrast, but it's like when you hear these crazy stories of like celebrities and these weird sex scandals where they like enjoy pissing on each other and shit. And
Dubai.
the Dubai shit. Like people like getting shat on in Dubai by like princes or whatever. And the reason is, I feel like when you get that level of dopamine from something, and then you suddenly have everything and you get that next level, you need more and more to get that same level of dopamine.
It's funny because, we done double the next Black Friday. Didn't realize until Monday that we hit it. It's funny because I sent it to my dad, thinking that will release something for me, for him to say well done, but still doesn't hit it. But recently, like in the last maybe 2-3 months, I've really pivoted into more enjoying the I don't want to say it because it's cheesy as
I know what you're going to say.
Enjoying the journey, all that bullshit.
It's more so true though.
I want to reword it, and it's more like enjoying the processes. Like enjoy the people you work with. Like number one, I actually I have loads of good friends from like America and stuff. But one thing that I really hated about my day was having calls at like 7-8 at night, working with American agencies. And I hated it. And do you know what? They done brilliant jobs. They probably all of them done brilliant jobs. But I was going through my whole day. I was like, I have to stay here to fucking 8 to have a 5-minute conversation with this that's not really that important, but we've booked it in. I don't want to cancel it. I don't want to undermine this person. Just pivot into working with you, working with Ollie and Joe, working with UK people where we have them calls at 9 or 10 or whatever time we have, and then we're fine.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's like, and I'm not just saying this because you're here, but it's been fucking breath of fresh air working with you. Like honestly, if you see some of the shit I have to put up with, like in terms of, I'm not going to name any names, but there's a client we're working with right now and we're having some massive issues with, and just like the level of disrespect that, we're kind of at a point now where we're not at the mercy of our clients. And we in January we like dropped so much business because we were like, do you know what, like fuck any toxic relationships. Like I'm genuinely done with this, and we don't need to be at the mercy of the client anymore. Like because they feel like the ball's in their court, they've got control because they're the one paying the bills to you. But as soon as that flips, it's the best thing ever. So genuinely working with you has been a breath of fresh air because I feel like we've actually developed a fucking friendship.
Yeah, definitely. And it has been great because that your team sort of are all, and this is where I need to sort of learn because I've got my own creative team and I just don't have time to sort of develop them. And like we still outsource. We outsource email. We obviously outsource social media with yourselves. We outsource all of our creative development. We'll always do that because I always think that creative development always needs to be a specialist role. Sure. We outsource Zena's advertising to Joe and Ollie. We're about to outsource another brand. So like I'm outsourcing all this work. That when if I really take the time and develop my team. Yeah.
What are your, and I know we're jumping about here a bit, but this is good. Like, what are your thoughts on that for like other e-com owners? That whole idea of like developing talent in-house or working with like established because I think you need a level of both.
Yeah,
but like, what is your like view on that? Because I know you do outsource a lot.
Yeah. So first thing, it has to be cost effective. So for example, Tev's obviously still our biggest brand. I do the Tev's TikToks. I do Tev's Facebook.
That's the Essence Vault, by the way.
Yeah, you supply the creatives for that. And that's where
you personally are like, you're running the ads
Yeah.
for the Essence Vault?
Yeah.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
Have you always done that, or like did you outsource that?
So we've worked with massive agencies on it. So we had an agency. The very first agency we had was a Welsh agency. They were fucking dreadful. Then we worked with Nick Shackelford's agency, and they were really, really good. We had a small falling out, which was in hindsight my fault, because back then we didn't have anything like Triple Whale,
Right.
so we weren't really aware of our numbers exactly. So we had a bit of a fallout, and it was silver lining as well, because as soon as we had that fallout, we scaled massively, because of that fallout, we then looked to TikTok.
Right.
So we were very, 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 we were probably one of the, I know for a fact we were one of the first brands on TikTok in the UK, TikTok ads, and that TikTok relationship has really, really saved our business. Looking in hindsight,
what's your split in ad spend compared like with TikTok and Facebook?
Yeah, so 40% TikTok, 40% Google, and then 20% Facebook.
Interesting. It's 20% Facebook now. So like, what did that shift look like in terms of like Facebook to TikTok?
So we used to be very high TikTok, and then our creatives we struggled to get creatives. Obviously, big you up even more.
Thank you. That's why you're here.
We had a few key creatives that really. So we were back down to spending about 1,000 on TikTok, and got a few key creatives from Sean. What's his name? Sean, isn't it?
Sean, yeah.
Will Smith slap.
Yes, yeah.
So that scaled us up to 3,000.
Oh fuck! Really?
Yeah,
so we're talking like
yeah.
recently, since we've been working together.
Yeah. So that was, if you look, I've tweeted about it as well. So I tweeted about reducing Facebook spend.
So this, for context, this was like work with Connor in like a load of different ways, but like for you advertising, obviously we do paid TikTok performance. We don't do that for the Essence Vault, but we do his UGC. So we provide him with an X amount of UGC, user generated content videos per month from like micro influencers. So yeah, he's talking about one of our creators.
Yeah. Brilliant creator.
Yeah, he's class.
Yeah, and it was the first. You always obviously see make TikToks, not ads. I never really thought that was going to be completely suited to our brand because of the brand it was.
Yeah.
Naturally, there's never anything out of high performance ads from perfumes. It's all very high performance, very sexy, bikinis, all that stuff. Nothing to do with the perfumes. So for a content creator to be able to do skits on perfumes, it has to be high quality. And that was sort of the first time that we were able to do skits.
I think that there's loads of value here actually, because me and you were talking about this, and it's like a style I've kind of adopted with UGC. So like when Connor says like skits, it's kind of the way that I describe it is I call it like the satirical skit UGC, which is basically like voiceover based UGC with like a compilation of cuts that kind of tells a story in some way, and the product solves a problem. But what's important and key is that there's like satire and comedy throughout the UGC video. So it's like a very original style of UGC rather than just the standard like face to camera. Oh, I just got a bottle from the Essence Vault, all this kind of shit. And I'm gonna do a thread about this because it's fucking powerful, isn't it?
It is. The way I sort of compare it to, I was speaking to someone. It was that Clinton I referred to.
Yeah.
I think so. I sort of
tomorrow.
Call it like the Charlie Chaplin ad. So it's like the skit. It's more like an advanced Charlie Chaplin ad. So it's like a skit where really that has nothing to do with the product. Like the newest one that you've done is pulling a perfume out of the water and then saying, "Look what I've just found in the water." Like, it fucking makes no sense. It shouldn't perform, but it has performed, and it
just on this note, because this, sorry to interrupt, but this is fucking hilarious. So like so basically I work with like a lot of fucking creators at scale, as you know, and I sometimes just like to scratch the itch of like me actually making some UGC, because I never get to really do it myself. I just see creators do it. I help direct them and, you know, get the best out of their performances and their, not performances because we like the authentic, but their UGC. And I sometimes like to scratch that itch. And funny enough, like because of the relationship me and Connor have, I really like doing it with his brands because I know he'll actually appreciate it. So I did like quite a few on holiday when I was away last week and got told off from my girlfriend several times. She was like, one day, I told Connor this already, but she was like planning where we're going to go. She's like a proper planner. We're like in our room, in our hotel, and she's planning where we're going to go for dinner. And she's like, so we got this option. We could go fish, we could go pizza, but I don't know if I want something so stodgy because we had pasta last night. And then I'm like, wait, hold on a second. I just need to, like, this sun is beaming down perfectly on the balcony. Do you mind if I just take the Essence Vault bottle and I just need to get this shot quickly? And she just bit my head off.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, and the whole skit thing, I never thought it worked for my brand, because generally it's never worked in the fragrance industry.
It's not a thing really in that industry, is it? It's like so, what's the word? Like in perfume, it's, I forgot the word for it, but just pretentious. Yeah. It's such a pretentious space, isn't it?
That's the influence of price, but you know, it's definitely to create an air of luxury.
But I think that's what's interesting now. Like we're in the new era of content, and realistically, like television advertising budgets are fucking shrinking, and people are putting their budgets into social media marketing and paid ads. Finally, like to be honest, there's still, you know, that shift hasn't really happened with like the big corporate tier 1 brands. But
fucking hope it doesn't.
I mean, yeah, you said, like, can you imagine a brand like fucking Paco Rabanne doing UGC? And that's why I think you've got a huge advantage there. Like you dominate. I feel like the amount of people that have like come up to me and said, "Oh yeah, you know, seen the Essence Vault advert, seen you on the Essence Vault," and like some of our UGC creators, like so many of them have said the same thing, that like they're just getting recognized everywhere because of their ads on the Essence Vault on TikTok.
Yeah, we're about to start our start our own fragrance company as well, with our own original fragrances. Yeah,
interesting.
So it's going to be called Thompson Carter.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, you actually have. It hasn't been anywhere. Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, so we're going to do that because we really feel as if I want to create something of my own, and we do the base note collection on the Essence Vault, which is our own fragrances.
Right.
They're actually some of our most well received fragrances, actually, which is funny. But so we want to keep.
So is that going to be more of like a premium high ticket product?
No. So I want to completely.
Oh, nice.
Distort
I like that.
So what I want to sort of play in, well, obviously talk about it on a branding call or something. But I want to really go in depth into like think about like represent X Joe Malone.
Okay, nice.
You know, that sort of vibe.
Yeah,
but I don't want to do the rip arse fucking prices and stuff like that. I want to just really same prices as the Essence Vault, you know, value for money, but the product is insane. And that's where we're gonna go. And I think it's a no-brainer. Because like if you look at your TikTok lives, a lot of them are perfume. Yeah. Because it's such a high profit margin thing. Not for us because we spend a lot on advertising. We've grew so fast. So our profit margins are more like the relevant brands. They wouldn't be as high as obviously. You know, fuck's sake, we sell a product that's £25 in the market where they're mostly 150.
Yeah.
So we sacrifice the profit margin in order to build the business, obviously.
So like, just going back then, because I want to move on from the Essence Vault, and I don't know how public you are about your other brands. Not as public, so we don't need to necessarily go into names if you don't want to, but definitely not of, you know, all of them anyway. But I just want to give as much value here to like whether it be ecom owners. There's some, because I know we've got quite a few, being the nature of me being an agency owner, like quite a few agency owner listeners. So I think there's value there that I want to ask about, like how you work with agency owners and what you've seen in terms of good agencies and what they've done differently. But for ecom owners, what did that look like in terms of like, you know, what was the strategy there in terms of scaling the brand? You know, how did you get that from 6-figure months, from 6-figure quarters to 6-figure months to like 7-figure months? Like what did that look like?
So it's funny because at the minute, obviously Geek Out's just finished and there's a lot of talk about all of this delayed cash flow cycles, negative cash flow cycles. I don't believe in that, to be honest. For me, that's very stressful. To be able to you know, I spoke about it in a previous podcast, but we were nearly bankrupt. And we were near bankrupt because we done stuff like that.
What? So you
Scaled
just had
aggressively.
cash flow problems?
Yeah, scaled aggressively. Not so much cash flow problems, because we were unprofitable at stages, but we were never that unprofitable.
Right.
But you know, we were taking risks where you don't need to take risks. You don't need to have a net negative cash flow. You don't need 60 days on your fucking inventory. We pay all of our inventory up front or on a 30-day invoice, which is given to us by our suppliers, not some credit card company that if you look in the T's and C's of that company's fucking contracts, they can rip, pull the carpet straight under. And I'm telling you, any brand owner, look at your contracts with your suppliers. They can, and that's Amax, anything, they can take that money back at sometimes a week's notice.
That's actually crazy.
The T's and C's on a finance contract for a D2C brand will be less complex than a mortgage. You know, it will say in the contract that they can take the money back at any given notice. That's what happened in the 2008 recession, and we're coming into another recession. It's going to happen again. Please be careful. You know, there's a few. I'm going to not get angry here, but
I love it. Get the passion going.
There's had a pretty public falling out with the disruptor on Twitter for spewing this PSM metric, which basically stunched that you could scale your brand at 0.4 of a ROAS because you're acquiring customers at your LTV and you're still profitable. Fuck off! You're going to bankrupt businesses. You cannot run a startup on a 3 month.
Not healthy.
You cannot run a startup on preparing for your 3rd, 4th, sometimes 5th month of subscription to be profitable. That does not work. You've got your big brands that are in the red now, Allbirds. What's the other few other public ones? You've got Allbirds, it's at 10% of their height. Any of the big VC backs, they're all coming really, really in the red, and we're not supposedly in the recession yet. That's going to hit the more localized brands. I
hate like this culture that like ecom has built, where it's like people just fucking screenshotting revenue figures, and it's like, what, you're fucking making no profit. What does that mean?
Yeah, it doesn't.
And people just look at that and they think this guy's killing it, but realistically, it's like so toxic for the industry because, you know, as a result, people are just trying to scale for that fucking screenshot.
Yeah.
And not build a sustainable business that has healthy profit margins,
totally.
Good cash flow business, and is going to scale at a good rate.
That was a big learning curve for me. That was so it was back when we had that revenue height of the Black Friday, where was the first big dopamine hit. That's when we were nearly bankrupt. We took on the building that we're in at the minute. So even though
did you buy the building?
So I bought half the building.
Right.
My father still owns the other half. We bought half of it. We bought a machine that could 10x our production. We still haven't set it up.
Fuck.
That was 6 figures. So we done all this to prepare for these big months, because I was looking at people like him, people saying, "Oh yeah, get your Amax." And
mate, I fucking corked it. I can't believe.
Oh no.
Just fucking ripped it off. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. So I was really all about this. Yeah, grow your business and then pull back, and you take profitability. Lucas has just stabbed himself in the throat.
Oh, you're fucking. It's all part of the fun.
Yeah.
Look at that. Great.
So we were really tight. We ran so tight to the wire. not really intentionally, but we done all this and then had to buy the building. And then the VAT quarter came up. We didn't have enough for the VAT. So we took a cash advance, which didn't, at that stage, we still didn't have our year's books or our second year's books in. Pardon me. So we weren't really getting favourable terms, but there were terms we had to take because I'm saying we, like there's another decision maker. I got myself into them predicaments. And we were lucky enough, we were profitable, so we were still able to get these cash advances and stuff. That we sort of saved the business. And that was a stressful time.
Massive learning curve.
And I'm so glad, looking back, I would never ever, if I was in the moment again, touch wood, I would never say, oh, I'm gonna be so thankful for this.
And do you think like a big part of that was because of, you know, all these fucking ecom courses? That's the shit they don't talk about.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's only really crept up now. The one, there's my Ovi. What a fucking brand! Like scaled to the moon. And he is clearly very, very switched on with his finance.
What brand? Sorry,
my Ovi.
My Ovi.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
brand. Yeah.
The collagen brand. Like what a guy! I can't wait to do is I'm going to get a mentor pass with him. Because I think he's got Ron, the CEO, he's got so much knowledge in there. But he speaks a lot about net negative cash flow cycles, which is clearly works for them. To be honest, for me, I think I'd have a fucking heart attack if I done
Explain that to like someone who doesn't understand.
So basically,
what that means.
net negative cash flow cycles in layman's terms mean that you can pay for inventory and have it sold. Sorry, you can purchase, like, order inventory and have it sold and given to the customer before the payment's due on that inventory. So technically you never need any cash flow.
Right.
Whereas, and if I was looking at it in my terms, that's opening myself up to more liability because I'm having to, I pivot from being able to stay profitable to pushing myself to get that inventory sold in the 60 months. It's clearly working for them. They're in retailers and they're a massive brand and they continue to grow. Ash is what a advertiser, brilliant guy. You should follow him if you don't. And then Ron, obviously, as the CEO, they clearly run that brand like a fucking army camp. But for me, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference between him and the disruptor. The disruptor spews all of this PSM, whereas he says, this is what's working for us. Do at your own demise.
That's what it's so true because, like you say, there's never a right answer.
Yeah, there's never a right answer.
There's a million ways you can do something.
Yeah.
I do think though it's like there's this whole culture around like how quickly can you scale, and I mean talk about that, like how, you know, for someone here who's fairly new on their ecom journey, like what are the key things you've learned in your journey that they can implement that is going to mean they can scale an ecom brand healthily, I think is the way to put it.
So if you ask someone when they wish they sort of done an ecom brand, they're going to say, oh, before iOS 14. Now people are saying, no, next year people will be saying they wish they done it now because of TikTok organic.
TikTok, yeah.
There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something that you can be the best at. So don't fucking rush scaling your brand. Just scale it at a level that's comfortable for you. Get yourself in a bit of shit.
In your own happiness as well.
Yeah, get yourself in a bit of shit. It's not worth the fucking blood pressure, putting yourself under pressure. Realistically, we could be at half the revenue and be double the profitability that we are now. And we're at a stage now where we're about to go into new markets, but I'm not going to be one of them ones. We've just secured shipping to America in 1 to 2 days, which is
what?
I don't believe.
How the fuck is that possible?
So
Brexit, like, is that affected? Because I know a couple of businesses we work closely with, like Brexit completely fucked everything up for them because they're getting like these import charges just out of nowhere and there's no actual like context as to where they've come from or what they're getting charged for.
Yeah, so let me speak to them because I know the issue. So it's
really?
Article 86, which means you don't need to pay customs and taxes in most DTC brands harmonization codes.
Right.
But the harmonization codes need to be inputted correctly to take advantage of these. take advantage of the Article 86, which lets you basically bypass any customs and taxes up to, I might be wrong here, so don't quote me, $150 value.
Cool, I'm back. Sorry, had a little piss break there. You know when it's a good conversation, a good episode, when you have to go off for a piss halfway through.
I love pushing myself. You know, I love working. But I love working. That's the process. You know, I love looking at things like instead of top line revenue, okay, we've boosted our MER this week. We've boosted our net profit. We've boosted A, B, and C. And that's important to look at because it's important to take the wins. It definitely is. There was a period where I was scaling Tev, and I was really unhappy because I was pushing for these big months, big days, sending out an email, and getting, you know, so much revenue from it. And do you know what? It's funny because say January, February time we were doing that. One of our big things is back in stocks. So if something runs out of stock and goes back in, it fucking goes haywire.
Right.
But when we were doing that in January and February, when I was really pushing numbers, they never really worked. But in the last maybe month, we've had some of our best non-sales days. Because my focus is no longer on that. Pardon me.
So what? It's definitely a topic I wanted to come onto because, like, when I went for a piss there and we spoke after, like, you've got a lot of fucking econ brands that you're building right now. You know, how many is it now? Or at least, like, how many active and then how many, like, in the works?
So we've got 3 active and we've potentially got another 3, between 3 and 4 in the works.
Potentially one that I might be involved in.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I guess the point there was, what are your thoughts, and this is me playing devil's advocate, of spreading yourself too thin, and as a result, because I know the reverse to it, it's like, you know, you want to make sure that you're in a position where you know, where you're covering yourself and you know, you're spreading your losses. But what is your opinion on that? Because I know a lot of people and a lot of pessimists and, you know, a lot of people will come back and say, if you spread yourself too thin across too many different potential ventures, then they're all going to be average, and then there's not one or two that are going to be fucking, you know, insane. What are your opinions on that?
In my opinion, so this is where I need to take a leaf out of your book and stuff, is create a good team around us. You know, we look at things like success stories of the likes of the Hut Group, which is something that I really idolize towards. Recently we had a team meeting where that was part of my sort of pitch deck, was the Hut Group, their warehouse, what they've achieved, and reality. In the first sort of 3 years of the Hut Group, we've outgrew them in that same time period, that's
fucking insane.
Yeah. That doesn't mean we're going to outgrow them in the next 3 years, because I don't want to do VC capital. I don't want to do outsourced investment. I want to build them the way we want to build them.
Interesting.
And keep that sort of, I know I don't want to go public around that bullshit. I just want to do them the way I want to do them, but I want to do them in a way where, you know, I don't want to spread, I never see it as spreading myself too thin, because that's where the other side of outsourcing things comes into it. Because say, for example, we've got Xena Skin, we've got a brand that we just acquired, and you know, we've got a few other brands in the works, and there's no reason for them not to work. There's no reason for them not to work. Whereas right now, I'm not the specialist in doing skincare. You know, we still haven't got a female creator in house, a female SMM. You know, Molly's doing a brilliant job, and we'd love to keep Molly doing that for us, because it's clearly working. But technically, out of my day, I don't spend too much time doing the extra brand.
Yeah, right. So talk about that then. Like, how does that work? Because I think what's interesting is like the idea of, you know, there's this big thing online about start a business that is for you, that you're building a brand for yourself. You're building something that is going to solve a problem that you have. What's like your advice there? Because obviously a female skincare brand isn't something that, you know, is solving a problem for you. what happens at that first hurdle where something you're struggling with the brand, you're not going to have that same drive and ambition potentially that you would with something that you believe in and is for you as a person. That's just me being devil's advocate.
So it's a funny one because one of my big things is never take advice for someone that hasn't done it themselves, or hasn't experienced it themselves. So I done this one of these courses, and it was about I used Zena Skin as the example, and the course was all about, in my opinion, negativity. So it was when to cut your losses, and I was fighting with the guy. This guy came in. He was from Amsterdam or something. He came in and he was like, I've done this, this, and this, and basically he rose to this finance company. So he had nothing to do with brand building. And he spoke about, he goes, you need to know when to cut your losses and move on and all this. And I looked at him, I looked at him and I said, well, the essence of it is now what it is now. For the first year, it was fucking nothing.
Yeah, right.
I done it as a hobby. So as long as you know what you're doing and you're confident, and you take advice from people that have experience in the areas that you need advice in. That's the most important. Do
you think though, like, if it's a thing you genuinely are passionate about, like a market you're passionate about, it's more likely, because I'm not written necessarily on either side, but I'm just being devil's advocate. If it was, say, Zena Skin, the female skincare brand, you're more passionate, like you said, when you were younger, about aftershave perfume, mixing perfumes.
Yeah.
If it was that brand that was the first and it was failing for the first year, because it's something that it's a market you're not actively in and you're not actively necessarily passionate about, would that have lasted, the test of time of that first year?
So it's funny, right? So because I see Zena doing the exact same to what I seen Tev, because with Tev I made up my story. When people ask me, how did you get into perfume? I always made up this story that my roommate at uni was a chemist and he done perfume, and I was like, oh, I love perfume. But then literally only halfway through, I actually thought to myself, I goes, fuck, I actually did mix perfume.
Interesting.
Back in the day, it was funny because it was a bottle of CK1. Do you like that?
yeah.
And it was a bottle of my dad's CK1, and I used to empty it out and fill it with what do you call that old fashioned red deodorant spray.
Deodorant spray.
Really old. Not.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
Old Spice.
Yeah.
I used to fill the can of Old Spice into CK1 and mix it like with a deodorizer and spray it in.
Fucking chemist.
Like a fucking nut job. So I always done that, but then it's the same thing with Zena Skin, because people were like, why are you starting a beauty brand in the most overcrowded space? Why are you starting an e-commerce brand in the most overcrowded space that there is? But in reality, now thinking, we've only had it for 7-8 months, but now looking back on it, the reason why I started it was because of even looking at my mum's makeup. She had this fancy dressing table that was like oak, and she had 60 I'm gonna say 50-60 products on it,
right?
Like all these different serums, makeups, brushes, fucking this and that. And now looking back on it, I just want to simplify that for women. And I say women, I use Zena Skin myself, and it,
I mean, you've always positioned it as a fucking female brand.
Well, it is bright purple, like
really in terms of the branding, but it is a great product.
It is a great product. We find.
I mean, the UGC creators, and we genuinely don't get this much, and this is a plug for Zena Skin, but I even sent you a screenshot. I've had a couple of creators that have said, if Zena Skin want to do anything more, like, I genuinely love their products, and it's fucking cleared my skin. So props to that.
And that was probably the last thing that I needed, because I wasn't confident in the products as much as potentially Tev. But the reason for that is because I haven't done the face-to-face markets with Zena Skin. I hadn't felt that. I hadn't got the confidence from the products that the products worked. It was just me saying that the products worked. The products worked on me, but is that from using fucking water as your cleanser to now using, you know, all the skincare products that Zena has. But now I've got that confidence, and now we're moving forward, and we actually are seeing a pretty good numbers with Zena this week. This has been the first week that it's been profitable.
Nice.
You know,
well, I think there's an interesting point there, because like, I think anyone watching this that is at that point, they're fucking 3 months in, 6 months in, even a year in, where it's not necessarily working yet. I think the difference is with like jumping ship too frequently, and or just adding to what you've got. And again, I'm kind of going through this now, because like now currently running 2 agencies and an econ brand, and me and Connor also chatting about potentially starting something else. And like, it's the constant battle going through my head of like, am I taking on too much, like jumping between too many things? But realistically, I think where that comes from is once you've fucking done it, and you know and believe in yourself and the skills you've got as a fucking business owner, you know you can do it. And I think once you've got something that is successful and you can hold on to that, and that is your backbone, then you can build on that. I think like the moral for me of this story is, if you're just fucking jumping ship every couple of months to this idea, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, I'm going to try that, then it's probably not going to work, and you are spreading yourself too thin. But if you've built a successful business with a track record, and then you build on that business with another business, and you can use your learnings from that first business to implement on the second, then I think that's the difference. And I think just from us speaking right now, for me anyway, that's what the conclusion is to what you've done. You've built something fucking really successful. It's given you the confidence and probably like the money you need to invest into the new brands, and then that has given you that confidence to be able to instill those same elements into these new brands.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just to add to that, like one of the main things is systemizing things, systemizing the products. Like, you know, you have 3-4 main pillars of a business. You've got your advertising, you've got your product, you've got your fulfillment, and you've got your general systems that work around that business. So that, you know, your operations, things like that. If you can systemize them 4, separate them out, systemize them, bring them back together, you've got a repeatable process, which is something that we're doing. And one thing that makes it easy is a great team. You know, I've got my wee brother that works in the business. He's only turned 18. He's probably one of the most influential parts of the business. And because he's the most influential, one of the
18 years old.
18, yeah, he's a wee dick. Like, if he's going to be listening to this, and he is a wee dick. But that, because I've got them people in place in key parts of the business, lets me then look to the future.
So fucking true.
Yeah, and you've got it with certain members, nearly all members of your team.
It's longevity. Like, genuinely, like, sorry to interrupt, but like, people underestimate the importance of a team. I think like what separates a good entrepreneur from like an average one is someone who can delegate effectively and hire the right talent.
And that's something that I've really actually struggled with in the past.
Interesting.
I've never ever been good at delegation. Like, we've got a full team in the office. Penny, my wife, she's one of the influencer outreaches. She wants to take on more responsibility, and she's very good at what she does, very, very good. So that's one of my delegation points, is just letting her make her mistakes.
Yeah, right.
And that goes with, you know, we've got.
That's interesting. Like, you don't want to, because that exactly. I think micromanaging is like one of the worst traits you can have.
Yeah. Not so much, but I didn't even do micromanagement. I just didn't manage.
Yeah, right.
We've got creative team. We've got Andrew that does the creative, Jack that does the social media management for Tev, and then Ryan who does a different Ryan that does the landers and stuff, which is something very, very new to us, because we only ever drove all of our traffic to the homepage.
Yeah,
that's a brand new position, a brand new thing that we're looking into. We're trying to convert for the new brands and for Tev, is to have dedicated landers for different things, whether it be a sale, whether it be certain products, a new launch, blah blah. So that's something that we're again looking to the future, and really optimizing towards. But it's about managing that whole team and the processes and things that they can do to benefit us, benefit the brands and stuff, benefit all of the brands. But yeah, that.
So what is the actual like how's the business set up? I think this is interesting because like I think there's a lot of people that, you know, what you've done is quite amazing where you've built, you know, quite a few econ brands under one group, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Like how have you like structured that?
And to completely bring it back down to earth, like out of all of the econ brands, and the fulfillment, the 3PL, only one of them's profitable.
But I think that's so important to say because you believe in all of them, and you know that when you implement the same, well, not the same strategies, but you know that you've got the learnings now to be able to execute the same way.
Yeah, and it's the sort of thing where, you know, they're not profitable, and be honest with the fact
new. Like,
they're very new, and we are in a world where we're post iOS 14, things are harder. I'm not me or most of my team aren't the best at TikTok organic. We're not accustomed to that. That's a new thing for us, so we've had to outsource that while we learn it ourselves. TikTok organic's a different beast, but we'll move on to that.
Yeah.
The 3PL part of things, which is one of the biggest systemized things about all of our brands, was the fulfillment. Is if you look at any DTC brand, 60% of their negative reviews will all be about their negative fulfillment.
It's so true.
The delays in shipping, wrong shipping, wrong items being delivered. Okay, part of that is customers generally just lying. You get that with all brands, but that's then itemizing 60% of your negative reviews and negative customers come from your fulfillment. So we thought, okay, first of all, I looked at outsourcing our fulfillment, went to a few massive ones in England, didn't like what I seen. Generally just looked at them, I was like, right, the way Tev's set up, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
So then I went back and I was like, right, okay, so we went to 3 different ones, one big one and 2 wee small ones. I was like, right, what can we implement from them to us? So we changed our whole layout of our dispatch. We changed to a more expensive box that was faster for them to build. You know, one of them like snap lock boxes. We changed one of them. Realistically, that saved us a fortune changing to them, and they were double the price, and because it saved us in labor.
Yeah, right.
And we itemized things. Jared, our head of operations, sort of oversees that department as well as production. So it's really strategically set up. It's itemized. It's set up that we do about 1,200 orders a day now. The way it's set up at the minute, we could do up to about 3,000-4,000 orders a day. So we're set up to take on more business very easily.
So yeah, it's interesting. It's so interesting that you started a 3PL. For anyone listening, third party logistics. So what is just mad about that whole thing is, and what I actually love, and it's kind of what we're trying to build through it for you advertising. Like we're currently working on a new venture within that business currently, which will mean we will be able to completely systemize the 360 of the TikTok space. It's just a little hint. I won't get into too much of that today, but what I love about what you've done there, and it kind of comes back to what we said earlier, it was like that whole thing of you've created something for yourself that, and I remember you saying in Matt's podcast, you were like, you went to these 3PLs and they're all fucking in suits.
Yes.
And that's just not the way that, like, as a, you know, a lot of business owners work in compared to like the corporate world. And you were creating something for yourself almost.
Yeah.
And it kind of it's ironic because it comes back to the thing we were just like debating about of, do you create an econ product that is designed for yourself?
Yeah. That's one thing, and it's benefited me so far, so I'm going to say that it's right, is build something for yourself, or build something that you recognize the benefit of, because therefore you're going to be more accustomed to the benefits. And if you're more benefit-led, your advertising is going to be better, your product's going to be better, and you're going to have a more deeper connection with your customers, which is, like for example, for the 3PL, we've had quite a lot of sales calls. Realistically, we've only actually lost 2 sales calls for reasons that were actually in our control.
Fuck.
So one of them was the other day, which was a brand doing 400 orders a day, and the reason why we couldn't beat them on price was because they actually do all the hard work and just ship like literally in the box and all to the 3PL. 3PL ships it. So we couldn't get close to the price because they would have to pallet their stuff over to us for us to send it back. That was the only sort of, there's 2, 3 that we lost like that.
Because it's funny, we've kind of done the reverse. Like, I come from a B2B world, you come from a B2C world.
Yeah.
And you've moved
sort
into B2B, and I've started moving recently into B2C. So, like, what was that like? Because for me, right, I've been very clear of this. I've even mentioned it in a previous episode. I can't be client facing or B2B forever. Like, genuinely, this is like a max 10-year game for me, like in the B2B space, and then I need to move out of that. Like, I want to be building brands. I want to be doing that now, like I am, and like I'm gonna be over the next few years anyway. But realistically, like, as much as I love client services and I love the agency space, it's not something that I feel like I can do for another decade or so. So, like, how was that move from being a B2C business, as you obviously still are, to actually then working with other business owners? Because it's like a different fucking ballgame, isn't it?
As I've said to you in the past, I've said that every agency we work with, brand owners are dicks. Brand owners are assholes. The reason why we're assholes is because naturally we only have one brand. That brand is the baby, and you're going to be a dick to anyone that holds your baby. Yeah. And that's just the world we live in. There must have been like a realization moment there where you fucking went from working with customers to like actual business owners. Yeah, it's very, very hard. At the same time, I sort of understand them.
Yeah, that's true actually.
Do you know what I mean?
Because you've been in, you literally are in their shoes. And to be fair, that's probably like an interesting way of positioning the sale. When you have sales calls, you're like, look, I'm in your position.
Yeah, so just and to explain it a bit more, so our 3PL is set up completely different to most. So most will charge you a pick fee, they'll charge you the courier fee, storage fee to store your items, they'll charge you a shelf fee to have your items on the shelf, they'll charge you a pallet fee to store your pallets. So you have to look at all of these prices. So there's no actual way, and this is literally a fact, there's no actual way for you to work out your actual fulfillment cost statistically month on month, because your sales will fluctuate, therefore your fulfillment cost will fluctuate. So we redone it and we charge one fixed fee. So where if you have one pallet in our store or 10 pallets in our store or 100 pallets in our store, we'll only charge one fixed fee for every single item that goes out the door per courier. So say for example, if it was on a 2 to 3 service, we charge a fixed fee of £4. If it was a 24-hour service, we charge $5.50, or whatever. We give you.
Are there any other 3PLs doing that on the market?
No, so there's none.
Really?
There's none, and the reason for the way that there is none is because the cost per square foot in the mainland England is so high. In Northern Ireland, we can get it so low, and we still get the benefit of the mainland.
I feel like in that space though, it's like anything, to be fair, like our business right now is such a fucking referral machine.
Yeah.
Thanks to you as well, to be fair. Like, you've been great to us. But the amount of business we get purely through referrals, like I learned this pretty early on, like your best salespeople are your clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is mad. Like, and I feel like it's the same with you. It's like the law of accelerated returns. The more ecom brands you get, like ecom owners in their network have other ecom friends, and it's just going to be a fucking snowball.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And it's the same sort of thing, like agency owners having a proper 3PL that offers a lower rate benefits them as well, because you're getting an extra £2 in your CPA.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of subscription based is all CPA based. If we can shave off £2 on their 3PL costs, that's extra scale room.
So is that like, again, just coming back to like the whole way that the business is set up, is it, if you've got a holding group, and then is the three, because obviously you've got your ecom brands. I know you said like the vision is like the Hut group, building ecom brands under one group. Like, where the fuck does the 3PL sit within that? Like, is that
so
under
the 3PL is a separate company?
Yeah, fair, smart.
3PL is a separate company, and then we've got the Essence Vault, and then we've got the Jack Group, which will hold all of the
Oh,
minority
nice.
businesses.
Right.
And then eventually, as they grow,
Who's Jack? What does...
so Jack's, my mum passed away last year. Jack is her name was Jacqueline.
Fuck, mate, that is. Do you know how nice that is? Like
Yeah.
that, it's like something to fucking stand for. And
Yeah. So that's where the Jack Group, Jack Performance, Jack Fulfillment comes from.
right, I see.
First three letters of her name. So that's the Jack Group will hold the minority companies. Once the minority companies become big enough, then they become their own.
Yeah,
their
right.
own company.
It's like, it's funny because I know we were talking about like our dads and how they influenced us in business, and like my dad like 100% was a big influence for me in business, but like I was very lucky where my granddad was a very successful business owner, and funnily enough, agency owner. He built a really successful agency, graphic design agency. They built the logos for like Orange, like original Domino's logo, like big brands. And he built it from nothing, had absolutely zero, came from nothing basically, and grew it into, started as like a photographic company, built into, photographic and
That's
graphic
cool.
design, like working with like Lakeland, doing all their like, all their shit. And it's actually mad. Like I've never actually spoken about him on the podcast. I always kind of wanted to, but like he was probably my biggest influence, even over my dad, who was a massive influence for me. And like the reason that I became, hardworking. But like my granddad always, and I don't know why, it just like when you just mentioned there about, your mum dying, and obviously it's a completely different thing and can't even compare it. But when my granddad died, it like that massively fucking drove me to build something in his name. And Molly as well is his granddaughter. So like I really do see that what we're building is,
Absolutely, it's like the next generation.
he's there, but, and it's kind of what you said about like the Jack Group. It's like that idea that they're there looking over and they're kind of helping from above, like that journey and that vision. I mean, like, it's actually mad. Some of the stories, and I didn't even know this till recently, and I don't know if I should probably say this on the podcast, but fuck it. Do you know Lush? Like
Yeah.
massive brand Lush. So my granddad, it wasn't called Lush originally. This brand was called something else. I can't remember the name of it, but it was called a different name. But it was the CEO of Lush, same team, everything. My granddad basically, I can't remember what it was, but his agency did a fucking massive job for Lush in terms of like a massive project. I think it must have, and this was decades ago, and this was like 60 to 100 grand worth of work, like, and that in those days, a lot of money.
Oh, that was a lot more than now. Yeah.
A lot of money, like, and that's the kind of money that will like make or break a business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Lush, soon after they did all of this branding work, basically declared themselves bankrupt. And as a result, you know how it works in terms of like declaring bankruptcy, no longer have to pay for those fucking bills. And as a result, it put my granddad's company into a position where they almost went under, which basically gave him a heart attack on the day before my mum's wedding, the day before my mum's wedding, or of her wedding. And there's a picture of my mum on her wedding day in her wedding dress, stood there over the hospital bed with my granddad and my dad there next to her. And they never repaid the money. Within months, they the new company launched called Lush, and they started again. They never repaid back the money until, and I don't want to get this wrong and get fucking done for defamation or something, but I'm pretty sure it was only fairly recently, before my granddad died, that the CEO, and I can't remember his name, he is fairly in the public eye, I think.
Yeah.
He wrote a book, and the book came out, and some of the proceeds of that book, I'll do that in a sec. Some of the proceeds of that book, he finally repaid back to my granddad years later. But before that, there was no recollection of the fact that this led to him having a heart attack, and meaning that he couldn't be at his daughter's wedding. And then he actually like died of a heart attack when I was at uni, and like It's like a massive fucking thing for me. It was like the first moment where, and I know I'm like rambling on here a bit, but like it was the first moment where I was like, shit, that's what death is.
Yeah.
Like, that's what the feeling of losing someone feels like, that is that close to you.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because it's weird, and it's I'll be honest, I can't remember what where I got this from, but it's weird because my mum was pretty much a vegetable. Like all she could do was blink. Since I was like, she tried to commit. Basically, my mum, she had depression. Tried to commit suicide. She had MS, depression. Tried to commit suicide. From then on, she was pretty much a vegetable. She could.
Fuck.
It's funny if me and my dad and me and my wee brother, we were fighting. She would do this. We laugh. You'd find out she was laughing. And that was all we had. That was all we really had. But she really died back then, but then she died again when she actually did die, sort of thing. It was weird, but at the same time, it's a positive because when someone dies, you all have that in common.
Yeah.
Which is fucking deep.
Yeah, no, it's fucking true though.
You sort of have that in common, and it's a motivation, it's an inspiration.
Because like, I'm not really a believer of like, well, I don't know really. I don't know what I believe. I don't want to say, but like you say, it's like it probably was that feeling of they are there above you, and you probably feel that.
Yeah, I mean, like, say if I have if something happens and it doesn't go the way I want, I'll go straight to her grave.
Love that.
And I'll fucking tell her I was fucking fix this. Do you know what I mean? I'll not blame her.
To her.
Yeah. So Ryan does it as well. I do it. I'm sure my dad does it as well. If anything happens, I blame her. I was like, look, you need to get this fixed. You need to fix this. You're up there. Fucking fix it. So yeah, we all do it, and it's pretty deep, but you all get that in common, and you sort of grow from that. And
go on.
Even though that your granddad died, that's a fucking deep story. That's fucking mad, but it's like it's your origin story sort of thing. Yeah,
that's what makes you in a way.
Yeah, I mean, there's been
it's like that, not the chip on your shoulder, but like it is one of those things that drives you. So like, talk about that then. Like, someone who is in a position where they're it could be anyone actually, not necessarily an entrepreneur. It doesn't need to be an entrepreneur, but someone who is in a position where, let's say they're motivated and goal driven, and they're in a position where they're put through something, like you've been put through. How do you fucking deal with that? Like, how do you move on? How do you stay motivated?
So I don't think I do this right, but I put myself under an immense pressure. So like, dad, he doesn't work for me. He does work for me, but he's there to help. He helps out around the place. He does loads of jobs. Ryan is the main part of he's one of the main parts of the business. I fucking
love that like your dad and your brother all work together. Yeah. It's so fucking, it's just warming.
Yeah. Do you know what? And I do love it, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Absolutely adore it. My wife works for us. My wife's mum works for us. My wife's brother works for us.
That's crazy.
So when they say, family oriented business, it generally is. Now that is a pressure on me because I'm sustaining all of them. Now, Dad doesn't need it. Dad's been, he doesn't really need to work. He does it for me, mainly. But, I technically dropped out of uni. So I've got a third in a criminal justice course. I'll be honest, I'll lie if I ever have to get another job. I'll lie on my CV because no one ever fucking checks this. Ryan dropped out of school. Dad never had any qualifications. Penny doesn't really have any qualifications. So we're all really starting from scratch if anything happened. And I still think of anything happening, but that's a lot of fucking pressure on my shoulders to ensure that it never has to happen.
Yeah.
But it is a pressure, but in my eyes, that's my chip on my shoulder. It's my job to make sure that never fucking does happen.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So it's weird, and I'm sure that happens to you. I'm sure that's sort of part of you as well, is your staff. I never tell him, but I would never, if I had to let go of a staff member because
It's fucking awful.
We're a bit of a if I had to say, look, I have to let you go, pardon me, because business isn't going good. That if it's because business isn't going good and that employee isn't, obviously that employee is going to be chopped because they're at the bottom of some sort of pile. But at the same time, I don't want to let them go if they're doing a good job, and it's just because it's not busy. Yeah. That's on me, and it's not on me, but it is on me. I'm looking at it like it's on me. If you had to let it go with a staff member, you're going to look at it
honestly, like we spoke about this earlier. Like the more staff you have in a business, the more you realise, fuck, like I'm responsible for putting food on the table here.
That's what I say.
Yeah, it's the same.
That's what I say. Like you're responsible. You're not responsible because they can go get another job or whatever. But you are literally, if your business doesn't succeed, they can't put food on the table.
What, like, if you're empathetic, like that, I think that's what makes a fucking good business owner. Like empathy. The fact that you're saying that, and the fact that I'm saying that we're like, it's not just about like they are a workhorse for my business. Yeah. Like I genuinely want to hire people to make them happy, and that's why, like, as well, this whole in-house culture is so important to me. And I'm probably losing money on the bottom line because I don't give a shit. Like I would rather do amazing things for my team. Us do stupid shit like spin the wheel, which a lot of people actually online take the piss out of because they're like, "Oh, you're nice. You're giving meal deals to your team." Like, which why don't you have better prizes? Which is true to an extent, but like, I genuinely try and give back to my team as much as I can. Like, genuinely, and I'm going on a bit of a rant here. Like, there's not one employee that has joined this company that I've not given a pay rise to every 6 months. And an employee recently joined the company and he was that good that I gave him a pay rise within 2 months. And like at an average business, like you're not going to get a pay rise 12 months minimum. Some don't even give you a pay rise in a couple of years. Like my girlfriend's at a big corporate company. She's not had a pay rise in like 2 years. Yeah. And I genuinely love my team and want to build a family. And I think if you want to be a good fucking leader and CEO, is someone who can be empathetic and genuinely care about their team and see them as more than just someone who's going to grow their business. Like genuinely care about them. And I think it's amazing what you've done. And you've told me stories, and you haven't mentioned it now, but you know, you fucking helped. You know, you've given loans to people in your fucking team.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because you know they're part of the team, and I've got to where
it's a family.
Yeah, and I hate saying that because then family is like, oh well, you take advantage of them. You know, like one big thing that we done was recently last month we gave everyone a 5% pay rise, which doesn't seem like a lot in the general scheme of things, but to put it into perspective, our glass costs went up 45%. Our oils went up 50%. Some went up 50%, some went up 20%. Our fulfillment costs, we have a fuel surcharge of 40% on some of our couriers. To put it into perspective, that used to be 4%. So our costs are going up massively. One, we haven't raised prices for customers. Two, we've given pay rises of 5%. When the GDP averages went down from, I'm pulling these figures out of my head, but they're roundabout right, from 31,000 was the average down to 27,000 or something like that. So the average salary in the UK has went down, and we've increased it by 5%. Now the reason why we've done that was because the living wage went up to $9.50. Yeah. So our old wage was $9.50 for that was our lowest. Which I say lowest, most of our staff are on that. So we raised it to £10 an hour. We have 16-year-olds whose minimum wage is what, $5.60. Yeah. We pay them £10 an hour. They do the same job as everyone else. They get paid the same as everyone else. Simple.
Yeah. I love that. And have you read the Netflix book about the CEO of Netflix? I've completely forgotten his name, mate. I need to fucking lend it to you. It's over there. It's one of the best books I've read as a business owner. And like one of the big things in that is, one thing they will do without fail, like it's all about their culture and how they built one of the best cultures in the industry. And like obviously you came from a point of having about fucking 5% market share where Blockbuster had 95%, which is crazy. You know, it's a crazy story actually. Like if you look at that and you know how markets move, if you're not fucking pivoting and adapting to markets, like how that can affect you, even if you own the whole market. But the whole point was about that without fail, they will pay every single employee 10% or I think 5 or 10% above what the going market rate was. And they had literally full-time employees that were kind of recruiters, but their sole job was just to call up different agencies and different companies that were competitors to Netflix, find out what they were paying their coders, what they were paying their like creative team, production, all these different areas of the business, and make sure that they were 5% higher than every single role on the market for that. Because what that meant was they saved more money in the long term, because realistically, if you try and like shortchange your staff and
it costs
pay,
you more in the long term.
It costs you more in the long term, because everyone knows like the money, the amount of time and money it costs to not only find someone, but once they're into the business, training them up, it's fucking astronomical. So if you can pay someone what they're worth or more than what they're worth, it's more likely you're going to have far more longevity for their role.
It's the same thing. Like, so you've got all your staff in this room, all of our creative staff's in the one room as well. If one of them left for a higher paying job, naturally the rest of them their ears are gonna spark up.
Yeah,
because they're gonna think they're worth more than what they are. So naturally, pay everyone what they're earned and what they deserve. And you'll always be ahead.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, as long as it's genuinely like, look at the value proposition. And I think people are too busy focusing on the bottom line. And I think unless you're a public company, fuck the profit margins in the short term. Like, I know, I know that's like, it sounds ridiculous, but genuinely, I think people are too obsessed over bottom line profit in the short term.
Yeah.
When realistically, if you're a private company, you're not a public company, you haven't been IPO'd, like realistically, you've got no one else to answer to. Like if you're a public business, every quarter your fucking numbers are going out and you've got to answer to your shareholders, etc., etc. You can't, you know, I spoke about this with the CFO of Tesco in the last podcast, but you can't look long term. You have to be short term focused. But realistically, as a business, I think, and one thing I've really stood by is, you know, obviously profit is important. Cash flow, arguably, I was actually, you know, having a debate about this with someone in my team.
Cash flow is king.
Yeah. Well, that's what this Alan Stewart, ex-CFO of Tesco, M&S, WH Smith, literally I said, what's the biggest piece of finance advice you have for small business owners listening to this? And he said, cash, cash, cash. Cash is king. Know your runway, have cash in the bank. That is king. And that is really important. But I think basically cash is very important. But I am also a big believer that people obsess too much over fucking getting crazy profit margins when they're not looking at
profit margins, crazy revenue.
Yeah, but I also think profit margins, like I agree. And to be honest, I'm probably looking at this from an agency perspective. I think
because your profit margins are fucking mad.
Yeah, I was going to say. So like agency, I'd say like, and it's actually quite funny you say that, because like I was with Jordan Platt and Joe Hyde, like they built a 7-8 figure agency and education business, affluent, and good friends of mine. And we were actually laughing about this, and laughing probably at your expense, because we were like, we're laughing, like they were at a point with their agency where they were genuinely like net at like 80% month profit. And like you know, as a creative agency, it's not as crazy as that. Like we're spending 20, you know, that server there, that's 100 terabyte server. It can hold 100 terabytes of footage. That cost us about 20 grand. For a fucking box. Like what? But so it's not as profit heavy like when you're a creative agency, because there's a lot of kit and shit you're buying. But basically the point is, I'm probably talking more in terms of like a B2B agency perspective now, but like,
well, it's always something to get towards.
Well, like realistically, like we were laughing.
Like imagine,
because like we were saying, like as an agency, realistically, if you're below 30% net profit margin, like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, but in a case, in a brand point of view, if you're above 30% profit margin, you're doing something wrong because you're not scaling fast enough.
Interesting.
Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it.
But that's totally different from your point of view.
Yeah. I mean, we've fucking got a client right now getting them 15x ROAS. So, I mean, we don't even do bottom of funnel anymore. But like we like phased bottom of funnel out, and Chris, who's our head of engagement, he is still doing a little bit of media buying for our last few clients, like bottom of funnel conversion based clients. We don't really do that much of that anymore, and we're trying to phase it all out. Like we want to be a top of funnel brand and content agency, but we're getting them like 15x ROAS on Facebook now, and they've said to us that it's just breaking even.
That's them. Surely.
What can we do more than that? Like when you're running ads on Facebook, when you're getting a 15x ROAS.
That's if I got a 15x ROAS, I'd beat in the bag out for fuck's sake. Our break even for Tev is 1.4. Our break even for Xena is 1.4 as well, I'm gonna say.
Last topic question before we wrap things up here. I've just come back from holiday, and it's the first time that I've gone on a holiday in probably like, well, actually it's complete bollocks. I went skiing with some friends like a couple of months ago, but it was slightly different. It was like only a couple of days, and I went away for a week with my girlfriend, and I really, for the first time, I've been decent at it before, but now like there's several businesses going on. It's not just one thing. I've got a bigger team. I really struggled to disconnect, and it was almost like it felt, just opening up. Like it genuinely felt like an addiction, like wanting to look at my phone to see Slack or see emails or see what's going on. Like how do you, or how have you, because I know you've been on holiday recently, like disconnect?
So it's a funny one. So it's funny because I spoke to Molly about this today. I was like, I didn't want to message Lucas, but he kept messaging me. So I had to reply.
She kept telling me, she was like, get off your phone. Everything's fine.
Yeah. It's a hard one. I'm gonna be honest, and this is one for your missus as well. If you don't have a supportive partner, don't have one. Penny's brilliant. Penny's really supportive. I work I work far too much. We were in Mauritius and I worked maybe 2-3 hours a day. Do you know what? It's an addiction, but the realization is there is worse fucking things to be addicted to.
Fact.
And that's the ballpark. Penny is brilliant. She'll have a wee moan about me working, but at the same time she'll know that
she understands the greater vision.
Yeah. She understands it. She knows why. She knows my why, which is important. And I don't think that ever goes away. My
Do you think that's healthy though? Like, do you like being devil's advocate? Because like I had that. I kind of went away for a week. I did bits of work here and there. Like I was sat on the fucking beach on my phone, like texting mugs like you, like talking about. But I fucking I love it, and I want to be. I struggle to disconnect, but I do also know the value in disconnecting completely and coming back with like a fresh perspective of something. Like, do you think if you go away, you should completely disconnect, get away? I know Gary Vee is like, said this a lot. I know he was big on hustle porn and all the negative sides of working, and then he kind of switched up on that whole idea and, says if you're away, you disconnect and you're in the room in what the situation you're in. Like, what are your thoughts on the idea that actually, if you are away, you shouldn't fucking hybrid the two?
So you know what? It's probably, there's a certain aspect of it probably unhealthy. But again, I'm going to go back to the point is there's worse things to be addicted to. Do you know what? A big part of my last few months has been falling in love with the journey again, falling in love with brand building, falling in love with the day-to-day. The fact of the matter is, and it's simple, is I was maybe doing 2 or 3 hours 3 hours on the laptop a day on holiday. that wasn't working. It wasn't working.
Interesting.
And maybe it wasn't in the room. But it
Why
wasn't.
wasn't it working?
No, it wasn't working. As in, it didn't. For me, it wasn't work.
Oh, I see.
Do you know what I mean?
I see what you mean.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
work for me is, do you know, Penny will say, oh, do you know what? Get off your fucking, phone or be in the room, and I will. I'll try my best, but at the end of the day, I would rather have that than, saying to her, do you know what, Penny? We can't go on holiday now because I've got no holidays left.
It's so true.
And do you know what?
I think that it's that freedom, isn't it? That knowing that when you are that in love with something, that's the dream, really, isn't it? It's like, fuck all these revenue figures, get into 7 figures a month, get into 8 figures a year, whatever it may be. It's all great, but realistically, if you're in a position where what you're doing genuinely stimulates you and you fucking love it, then like that is the final destination. We should probably wrap up now because, I mean, mate, this has been a fucking mad podcast. Like, genuinely, yeah, we've just chatted a lot of shit, but I think it's been very valuable.
Just to end, three pieces of advice you would give someone starting in your shoes.
Interesting. I like this. We'll go back to back. What, as an agency owner?
If you 3 bits of advice for you starting.
Fucking Matt Spec. Question. That's good. God, I've never been asked this before. I would say one thing is like, I get a lot of messages from early, and again, you probably get it from like ecom founders or like startups, but I get a lot of agency owners message me and they're like, how do I scale my agency? How do I grow my agency? Like, how do I succeed as an agency owner? And I've had the same person send me that message every 6 months. And you know, granted, he's a young guy, but realistically, like the biggest piece of advice I could give anyone and myself if I was younger is don't overthink it. You know, it's very easy looking at the risks versus reward and being very risk averse, which I think is important in many ways. But when you ask too many questions and you have too many what ifs and you don't actually execute and action on those, that is your biggest downfall. I'd say the biggest thing is just fucking get in head first, dive in and do it. Be happy to fail and learn as you go, because that is the way that you learn and grow. Like, I've had many fucking failures, and if I never started in the first place, and if I kept messaging people on Instagram and Twitter saying, how do I get started? What should I do? I would never fucking get anywhere. The only way, and courses are great, courses are really good and they give you a great foundation, but if I never actually got stuck in and did it myself, there's nothing. A course is fuck all on you actually getting head in the trenches and doing it yourself, failing and learning from those failures.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, that's like not 3, but that's like a big one. What would you say is your biggest?
Biggest one is surround yourself with people that you sort of you adore. Yeah, you've got my brother, my dad, 2 big inspirations for different reasons. Ryan, for how he handled stuff. Like, Ryan never really knew his mum at all. So that's a big one for me. How he handles that. I know he handles it in his own way. Probably don't speak about it to each other enough. Dad's for the sort of same reason, plus sort of the sponge of having them 20 years of business acumen without actually having the 20 years of business acumen.
Yeah, right.
And then, yeah, just the closest people. Penny, I said it on my last podcast, is if you don't have a supportive partner, don't have one. My last partner would have been happy with me in a, which is a normal, 30 grand a year job.
Yeah.
Penny puts up with me. The nicest way to say it.
Pay off in the long term.
Yeah. Then my friend group.
It's like such an interesting thing, isn't it? Like, sorry to fucking jump in there, but like, I'm so like you that I love Fred, who's the creative director, you
Yeah.
also met today. Fucking
Cool guy.
Sideshow Bob, as I like to call him. You ever watch The Simpsons? Massive fucking head of hair. Like, fucking really talented guy. Creative. But like, funnily enough, like I lived with 4 people at uni. And 4 people, was it? Yeah, 5 of us total. And 3 of them out of the 4 like now work for me, which when I say work for me, that's not the word.
Yeah, I know
work,
exactly what you're
work
saying.
with me. Like Al, he's one of our designers, lives in Sheffield, fucking one of my best mates, loveliest guy, most talented illustrator I've ever seen. Tom, he's a completely our sole web developer and doesn't work with anyone else. It's only us, and he's a day trader as well on the side of that. And obviously Fred as well. And like, I'm the same. Like, people have such a thing about, don't work with friends, don't shit where you sleep and all this. But like, if I fucking know you and I trust you, like, we're already onto a winning formula.
Yeah. It's true. It's so true. Like, I would love to have all 3 working with me, but Paddy and Connor, they have different sort of specialities. So we're not really a good fit. But me and Keelan, like, it's funny, we both nearly got expelled for our formal after party. Did you have formal? Prom.
Well, to be honest, I went to an all-boys school, so
sorry to hear.
It's just a fucking sausage fest.
So
there was no prom.
You said prom. We had a formal. We basically had a after party that me and him.
Was that in like? Do you call it college or 6th form or?
So 6th form, yeah.
Right,
our last year, 6th form. Basically, we both were getting expelled. We were like interviewed separately, and we both like lied the exact same. So we're both
perfect.
Yeah. But so his dad is actually our COO.
Fucking hell.
He's
literally so like.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So he's the one from Bombardier.
Mad.
So
like context, just quickly, like Connor's COO is what, like in his 60s?
Yeah, 60s.
Mad.
Yeah. Loads of experience, brings a lot to the table. But yeah,
that must be a fucking weird dynamic. One of your best mates, like his dad is your COO.
Yeah, it is. Do you know what? It is weird. It's hard to deal with and stuff. But he makes it very easy to. I'm gonna say he makes it very easy to disagree with, but that's not exactly what I mean. He says his points, I say my points. We take them on board and we go with them. But Keelan, I sort of see as the last part of the puzzle in terms of fulfillment. I'll get him eventually.
Yeah.
I'll get him eventually.
It's mad. Like, I mean, it's fucking crazy what you've done, man. And yeah, I mean, I didn't expect this today. Like, coming in, starting filming at like fucking
7:30.
And
like 3 hours.
Like a 3-hour podcast. Joe Rogan spec. Right? If you found this useful, helpful in any way, please give it a like, share it with a friend. There's going to be loads of snippets. My poor editor going to have to fucking sieve through this podcast, but probably his whole working day. But he's going to pull out some absolute gems here. Like, genuinely, I reckon there's like 20, 30 plus moments in this. If you found this useful or helpful, please share it to a friend. Give us 5-star on Spotify. Give it a like and a subscribe on YouTube. We're going to keep growing this, and we're going to get Connor on when we hit 1,000 followers. That's the goal. And yeah, really appreciate the time, Connor.
No, nice being on.
And yeah, we'll see you all in the next one.